What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Uh, Nothing major going on in this video, but I did say something about tearing down the big block that was going in the car because we're making some changes and doing some upgrades for what I had to do with our setup, and I'll explain that later. But kind of walk you through what we got going on here. Just a basic tear down. I'm going to show you some bearings here, like right now. You got a little groove there, and how it goes into the rod cap only goes in one way. Just a little explanation to you guys if you never tore down a motor before and start wanting to put one back together or rebuild one. All this stuff is brand new, and it's all fitted with the crank and whatnot. So everything's crushed together. We want to keep up with where it goes on the actual engine, because it's going back together, not in this motor but in another motor, but it's all matched. It's never been ran before, so we want to keep up and put it right back where it goes. Could probably replace the bearings with new ones, but these are brand new, so I don't see a reason why you would want to, or why you have to replace the bearings. Just pulling a piston there, and you'll see it looks scary from the video angle, but my knee is down there to hold that piston. I don't want you guys to think I'm just knocking a piston out and just gonna allow it to hit the floor. There's your rod, and of course the bearing is still in there. One reason I was showing that is because you want to make sure that the bearing is still there. I know with all this stuff being lubed up, it has a tendency of sticking to the main cap or the crank, I should say. Here I'm just showing you where your grooves are, and the cap is only supposed to go on there one way. So I always put my caps back on and just put the bolts back in it, just to make sure it stays on there, and the bearing stays in there as well. Just some little tedious stuff that you want to do if you're tearing down an engine. I enjoy tearing them down more than I do putting them back together, because when you're putting them back together, you got to be real precise and pay attention to what you're doing. Excuse me. My dad came by while I was tearing it down. He says he gave me a set of bearings, and I couldn't find them. I don't know where they are. So he comes over. I guess he didn't believe me, and he's looking around on my shelves and whatnot. But other than that, it was good for him to come by and kind of hang with me. He always gives me pointers and runs me through some good tech tips on what I'm doing. Plus, it's my dad. It's always good to have him come by and get his 2 cents anyway. But we just kind of talk about what we're going to do with the setup and what these parts are going to be going in and what they're for. I ended up calling it a day after that because I wanted to enjoy some of the nice weather. This is the next day, and I decided I was going to pull the crank out. So here I'm taking the main caps bolts loose. Of course, trying to make some room for the crank, putting the rods and pistons in a box there. And really, when you're taking the main caps and stuff off, I always mark them and want to put them back exactly how they are or how they're supposed to be. You don't want to get anything mixed up. If you're doing this, especially if you've done it a time or two, you kind of know you got your own way of keeping up with stuff. Some people, they could probably just throw the stuff on a table and not care, but I can't do that. As you can see how organized I have everything and where they go. So here I'm just cleaning the caps off, or the bearings off, for the main caps, because I want them to go back in the same direction, and I'm numbering them for which main cap they go to. Like I said, just another way of keeping up with where everything goes. And of course, you got your oil main back there. I'm not really worried about marking it because it's got a groove in it, and it's obviously different than the other ones, and it only goes on there one way. And of course, here comes the crank. And I think there was a bearing stuck on. Yeah, see, there was a bearing stuck on there, and that's what I was saying. The oil gets in there and tends to keep the bearings in there. But yeah, I just kind of marked everything just to that way when we rebuild the next motor, it all goes back in the same way it came out. But anyways, we'll move on to the next, and I'll start talking about the pistons. All right, guys. Real quick, I'm just gonna kind of go over the piston setup the new piston setup that we have. I decided that I wanted to go with the roller setup. It seems to be more, if anybody's building a race motor, everybody's like roller, roller, roller. So I had the money, so I bought a roller cam. As far as the specs on the cam, you need to have really high compression, or pretty high compression, I'd say. I was thinking that we were gonna already be like in the 11 range as far as compression ratio. But we weren't even in the 11 range. After thinking about other things, I was like, why don't I just buy another set of pistons to help build the compression up, and pray to God that I don't have piston to valve clearance issues. This is going to be the old rod and piston. They are forged, but you can see the dome on the piston. I'm trying to explain to you guys what I mean by bringing up the compression. So normal pistons are either dished or they're flat topped with valve relief or something like that in it. Well, if you want to build compression, you buy what's called a dome piston, and that is actually closing the chamber, the combustion chamber inside of the engine, bringing it closer and closer. The higher you bring this up, the closer it's going to be to your valves on the bottoms of your heads. That's the 30cc dome. These are 30cc dome pistons. All right. So what I was needing to step up to, they do have online calculators. You just got to make sure you have all your numbers and all your specs off the heads you're running and everything else. You can type all that stuff in there and it'll give you a compression ratio. We got brand new pistons. They're Icon forged pistons. And you can see how much bigger the dome is on this. These are 50 cc's. And that is a big ass dome. I like brand new pistons. They look beautiful. But I went with Icons. They were reasonable on the price. They're forged. I haven't heard anything real bad about them. They look pretty tough. So we're gonna try them out and see how they do. See the difference here? Let's see if I can get my... we were at about 1060 something on the compression. I think it was about 1070. And then after putting the 50cc dome piston in there, we should be at like 12 to 12 and a half. All right, so I kind of got tired of just standing there and looking like a robot. So one of the main reasons why I'm doing this is because my brother, he just got him a BigBlock and he has nothing to put in it. So the pistons and the rods and the crank, the flywheel, the damper that I have for my motor that come off of my motor, it's already been balanced and it's already a set and ready to go. So I'm pretty well taking all that stuff back out, and he's gonna take all of that. He's gonna put all that stuff in his BigBlock. He's gonna have it bored 40 over to match my pistons. Everything's there, so he has a pretty good start, you know what I mean? So now I have to take and buy a new damper, a new flywheel, let's see, rods, because I have the pistons, and I possibly may have to buy a crank. I have a used 454 BigBlock Chevy crank that looks like it's in pretty good shape. Actually, one of my best friends, he bought it for me when I first started this build, and I didn't think I could use it because it has a couple of flaws on it, but I think I'm going to try it anyway and just go for it. So that'll save me $1,000 right there, not having to buy a forged crank. So I've got to buy some rods, and then I have to take and have all that stuff taken to the machine shop, and I have to balance everything. Has to get it all, balanced and ready to go back into the motor. The downfall is the pistons that, or not the pistons, the rods that I'm wanting to get are feasible. They're reasonable on price. They're actually on back order, and I'm not sure when they'll ever ship. Some websites didn't give me a date, but there was one website that gave me a date, and it said like sometime in the middle of March. And then on top of that, taking it to the machine shop, and that guy stays covered up. So then I'll be waiting on getting the machine work done. So all in all, what I'm saying is it might be a while before I get this motor done. That sucks, but at the same time, it is what it is. Anyways, guys, that's gonna wrap it up for me right now. Might add some more to this video later on. I'm not really sure yet. Just depends. It's a beautiful day outside, and I'm gonna try to get out there and enjoy some of it. So appreciate it. We'll see y'all guys soon.